Johannes, thanks for your time as always. Much appreciated. Dive in with the fitness-related issues. How are we looking tomorrow for Marcelino and Angus?
None of them will be in the squad for tomorrow. I think Angus, when we just assessed him and looked at him, I think we're aiming for the first game after the international break. I think with Nacho, this one was probably a day or two too soon for him. Otherwise, he will be fit. So I will expect that he will be around the group for the Friday game.
With Angus, you said after the Oxford game, maybe it was initially thought it was a little bit of tightness. Is it a little bit more than that then?
It's a little bit more than that, but it's not. So there is something, a little bit of an injury, but not that much. So we expect that he will be training with the group again after the international break and be available for the game. Is it West Brom we play against? I think it is. So hopefully he will be available for that one.
And in terms of any of the other guys who were available on Friday night, no issues there?
No, I can't even remember. So I'll find out tomorrow when the game starts.
Okay, it's got to that point now. Yeah, who turns up? Yeah. No, obviously, your Asik, Forson, Gibbs this side.
Forson will be back with us. It's probably a little bit too soon. So it's only if we really need him. I think we will put him on tomorrow, but he will be around the squad, and he's available again, and he's been training with us a couple of days. So it's just about building him up physically. But he's looking good, and of course we probably took a week or a little bit more to make sure that we really made sure that he was ready for training with the group. So he'll be back.
No, but no Jurasic, no Gibbs this side, right?
No.
Has Gabe had that sort of exploratory op yet, Forsyth?
Yeah, that's a surgery issue now with him, where the tricky part is that they have to open to see what it really is, because it keeps coming back, the pain, and it keeps, no matter how we treat it, when he's about to enter those last 15-10% to make it really game realistic and game like and strike the ball as hard as he can, he feels pain. So we have to wait and see what it is. So unfortunate for him and for us.
And I guess you can't, until you know the outcome of that, you can't really talk about in terms of the season overall.
No.
I know you said Crescenti was out last week, but is that the surgery route with him, with his ankle?
I actually not fully updated because he's still in the boot, so I think it's about that. It's swollen, so it's for that to settle before we can do anything else about it. And I think that's what they're waiting for, to make a scan with him and to find out whether it's surgery or whether it's just rest as much as possible. But it was not looking that good, that foot, after the game. So the expectations is that it's the rest of the season.
In light of the Angus news, just to clarify, George Long, is he available tomorrow night?
No, he's not available.
George Long's not available either? No. Was that, was there no sort of concussion protocol related element?
Yeah, so we have to follow that. So there's a clear protocol for what we have to do when we can integrate him in training. When we can integrate him just as a part of a light training, passing stuff, not really diving in and not dealing with crosses and stuff like that. And he will be on the backside of this one, ready again to be integrated in training on full power and be ready for the game on Friday. Which
by definition means, probably Reyes, you're going to have to put your trust in him again, him and Dan Barden.
Yeah.
But as he showed, in last year after the game Friday night, temperament-wise, it didn't faze him at all. So it probably, in many respects, because he's had that under his belt, got that out of the way, the debut and all that goes with it, you would think maybe, again, he could kick on from there again Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I think he can, and I think, again, a fantastic opportunity for him. I think despite the result, he had a very good Friday evening. I know he was disappointed still. I could see that he was very disappointed conceding that goal, but still a fantastic night for him, a great opportunity, and hopefully, because we see Vinny as a goalkeeper who can compete for a starting position with us in the future. This was probably not the time for him to do it, but definitely in the future. So it will not be anything bad for him to have another game in the championship tomorrow night. That will just be valuable minutes for him in his future career with us.
Obviously, Shane Duffy, just clarify that the status with him is it case closed. He's training. He's available for selection.
Yeah, he is.
I will put it to you because I've seen one or two express the view that do you play him and and not risk the consequences in terms of team selection. But does that miss the point completely about culture and how important that is and the importance you place on it?
Yeah, we should have played him Friday.
Basically playing Friday, yeah. Because obviously the knock-on impact in terms of how late it was in team selection, the shot.
Yeah, and that's like I said in the press conference after the game. I think if you ask 10 coaches or managers, they will probably deal with that situation in 10 different ways. And I think the only thing we can do is make rules around that as clear as possible. So there's no real misunderstandings. There's no real, this can be a yes, this can be a no, this can be a yes, this can be a no, because then the players, they don't know how to react and how to deal with situations like that. So we have been from the start very, very clear if there's any things like that happening. Also, if it's down to someone else, or let's say there's whatever incident, of course we can, in very few occasions we can probably look at the situation, but in most of them we have to just see it as it is, and we have a meeting when we're meeting on game day to begin with, a set piece meeting, and unfortunately because of the situation he was not a part of that, and then the answer is easy to that situation.
Moving on, I mean, it's second of a 3-game week cycle again. Maybe you don't have the luxury, but I mean, do you look to change it up just to freshen it up a little bit?
I think we will freshen up just a little bit. I think what was good for us is that Kenny came back into the squad selection again. He's been training with us now for more than a week. I think we have some players available as well where they can step into the team, and there will be some rotation, because again, I know results are important, and in this business is always the most important, but we just have to be smart still, and we cannot take any chances with players if we are in doubt. So rotation is needed, and especially because we play Friday night again. Yeah,
well, I was going to ask you about McLeod. I mean, he could now start in terms of Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny. Yeah, he can.
Just one footnote on Oxford, really. I was just interested because Gary Rowett, and I'm paraphrasing, but in his post-match he was kind of talking about the challenge they thought they'd face, and he felt because, in his words, maybe he'd struggled with a back five one or two times earlier in the season, that they thought they would go that way. I mean, is that a fair assertion, do you feel? That maybe against fives you might struggle a little bit?
I think to say against five is probably a little bit too black and white. I think it depends on the approach when you play in a five, because we've also played against team. I remember Watford came in a five when they played us at Carrow Road, but we didn't really struggle to create chances against them. But their approach was also a little bit different, because they were more aggressive in their pressing game. They released their wing backs much earlier in their high pressing against us, which gave us some space and opened up some space for us, because we that day were good on the ball. It can of course also cause you trouble if you are not calm enough on the ball and you're not good enough in your positions, because then you can be stressed by the high pressing, and then of course they gain the advantage. So I think it's more down to what the purpose is with the back five. And of course, when we play against teams where they are more passive defending and they're just standing waiting for us to open up the game and for us to be the team that have to create, I think it's difficult for all the teams in the probably all over Europe and the world. It's not something that is easy to open up, and you have to be both patient but also knowing when to risk the ball and when to probably deliver a little bit more crosses, and also understand that clear and open chances will be, you will not create as many as if the game is open, and you have to score your goals in a different way. And that's probably what we have struggled against this season, and also can see that more and more teams they change their approach when they come and face us, which is in one thing which I also mentioned to the players. It's I don't know, do you use that expression? It's a clap on the shoulder. It's because they see us playing and they say, okay, we cannot go up and press those guys because they're too good. So we have to defend, and we have to change our normal approach, to see if we can get a result. That's fine. Now we have to deal with that. And I actually think the Oxford game, in many ways, was one of our better ones against a low and a passive five back line. I think we created the situations that we can expect, and I think it's not often I refer to stats and stuff like that from games, because I think the overall view is much more important. But if you look at the stats, it is also one of the games where we have performed much better against the back five compared to some of the other games. So I think it was down to many things in that game that we didn't get the win. But I think we will, if the game picture is like that and our game is like it was on Friday night, we will win more than we will draw.
And moving it on, and probably interrelated to that, Jacob Wright, I mean, you highlighted him after the game.
Yeah.
You know, that was only his third league start, I think I'm right in saying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not impressive that he's good technically because you can see that's the top player is, but is it that the speed he's adapted to the intensity and the physicality of the Championship that is impressive?
It is. It impressed me, and I think I've used that example about him one of the other days we sat here, where I said I was actually impressed with his performance away against Hull because he really started poor. The first 15 minutes was not good, but he improved and he got better and he developed in the game, which tells me that he's a great player. So we don't have to wait until that game is over and then sit back and evaluate and give him feedback, and then hopefully the next one will be a little bit better. But he learned from his mistakes when he's playing, and that's a good sign because it tells me that he's a player that will be even better for us in the future. So I'm impressed with him because he's not a physical player, so he needs to find his own way in dealing with duels and second balls and 1v1 situations and all those moments in the game where he has to be as intense as possible. He needs to be aggressive, otherwise he'll never be able to deal with those situations. His technical abilities I'm more than comfortable about.
I mean, now I mean, we know how long you sort of trailed him. You spoke about that when you brought him in, but now you've had a chance to work with him. We know the mechanics of the loan, and there is a buy option from your perspective, because I know all parties have to be aligned in this as we get to the summer. But is it tipping towards, if you can, looking to take that up and making him a permanent Norwich player?
I think we definitely try to, and will try to. Of course, like everything else, when it goes down to contracts, it also the player also needs to be a part of this. He needs to, probably reflect a little bit after the season and find out whether this is the best place for him to go in his next step in his career. So there's many opinions to that, and of course you have to agree many parts to make sure that that's a deal to be done. But I think for us, he will be a very good fit because he's the type of player that we're really looking for, and he is. Also his personality is just a good fit for us because he is a guy who spends a lot of hours on the training pitch. He is a guy who's asking constantly for feedback and details for him to be aware of in the game, and that's what we want to build the culture and the club on.
I mean, broader terms of contracts, I think Emmy Marcondes with some quotes in the Danish media at the weekend. Just he feels maybe there'll be some clarity in terms of his situation in March. I mean, obviously after Bristol, it's an international break. Is that a natural pause for those senior lads going on, El Sorensen, all of those, maybe from the club's point of view? Will the clarity come, you think, in the next 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I think definitely at some point within the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, probably we sit down again and we take decisions on some of those players. Because like everything else, when you are in performance business and you just have to prepare and make sure that you can perform. You cannot sit down every day or every week to discuss those matters. You have to wait and find a day where to do it. So you leave some of those thoughts for other days or for other situations, and you purely focus on performance and preparation. That's what we do. And then I think middle of March, probably too soon, but end of March we sit down and we take decision on some of those players. So we make it clear for them what they can expect, and we make it clear for everyone what they can expect. But I think that will be a good timing to do it.
Bringing it right round to tomorrow night, Sheffield Wednesday. What's your overall thoughts when you sort of look at them and the threats they have and the type of game you might face?
A different one, I think, compared to the Oxford game. I think Sheffield Wednesday is one of those teams where they can adapt a lot to how and who they play against. They can be in a back five, they can be in a back four, they can be aggressive in their pressing game, they can be a little bit more passive. It seems like a team where they thrive if there's a little bit of chaos in the game, if there's some early crosses, if there's some second balls they can fight for, if there's a lot of action in both boxes. It seems like that's the kind of game that they want. So it will probably be like some of the other games where we've played against similar teams, where it comes down to, do we manage to get the control in the game and then play the game that we want, or are we not good enough on the day and then it's a game more for them, suited for them. That I think would be the most important thing for us to make sure from the outside that we get the game picture that we want.
I mean, would it be fair to say, certainly the meetings Norwich have had when Danny Roll's gone in there, that they're a team, you have to earn what you get from them. They don't give anything away cheaply.
They don't. They're competitive. I just highlighted also for the players some of the situations that they find themselves in constantly when they play games, because they're really competitive, and like I said, it feels like a team where they thrive if there's a little bit of chaos. It's not something that they try to avoid. They like it if they can compete and they can step into duels, and they can have all those, I can call it random situations, but I don't think for them it's necessarily random. I think because they are used to it, they probably also have the upper hand in some of those situations, and we have to avoid it.
Because of the nature of that away game, it was in that spell where, not the only one sadly, where you've had limited player availability, but do you discount that because the team you put out that night, even though I know you've got one or two issues this time around, it probably will be a much stronger 11 that you can put on the park tomorrow night?
Yeah, and also because that game came on the backside of another one where we travelled. I think it was to Cardiff away, where we did so well for 85 minutes and then unfortunately lost at the end. And then we had to go again a couple of days after playing Sheffield Wednesday away with not too many players available. So that was a tough time of the season, and we just had to make sure that we got through it in the best way. I don't think result-wise it was the best way, but I think we managed just to stay focused and focus on the things that we could actually control in that moment of the game. And some players in this group are really taking some steps also within their personality. Some of them they have to mature and they have to do it fast. And like I said a couple of times, I don't think it would be necessarily bad for us that we have tried this when we are further down the line with this team. Some of the young ones have been in those moments and some of them critical moments as well, because you learn so much about yourself, you learn so much about your group of players, you learn so much about what works for you tactical, what do you have to adjust, what do you have to change, and you definitely get some answers. It's not always fun answers. It's not always because we enjoy a late equalizer in Blackbird, but you learn from it, and hopefully at some point it will turn and it will be the complete opposite, where we can be on top end of the game. We can be the team that scores at the end of the game. We can be the team that learned from those games where it was not in our favour, all of it.
And following on from that, I mean, part of that is also managing those emotions that come with the highs and lows. I mean, you talked yourself after the Oxford game, purely on the Oxford 90 minutes, but a little bit of frustration, a little bit of annoyance how that game unfolded. But you look at it and it's you could say it's 1 win in 6, but it's also 1 defeat in 6. So, and within that was the Blackburn and the Derby games as well. So, is that a challenge though internally to manage those emotions?
And everyone who knows the two of us, Paddy, they know that we are always optimistic. So we look at it in that way, where it's one loss in 6 and not the other way. No, I was annoyed, and I probably still am, because again, I think most coaches in this world refers to stats when they lose games. That's probably how it is. Fair to say. That's also why I try to avoid it when we lose games. But now it was a draw, so I can do it. When I look at the stats from that game, we should never draw that one. We should win it 9.5 out of 10 times. I think there's so many good things going on. I think we kept them under a constant pressure, especially the second half, where we don't allow them anything. They have one counter attack. That's it for 45 minutes, and we have so many situations in and around the box. I cannot explain why Borja don't score at the end of the game, because he normally we're used to seeing him score on chances like that. But that's how it is in football sometimes, and you look for explanations, and there's probably not one we can find out here. But when I look at the game picture, when I look at the stats, we should win it. That's clear as that, and I hope we can create more and more and more of it, because it was. In many ways, I like to see the team out there. I like to see the control we had in the game. I like to see how much we can really put another team under pressure. And then for us, of course, is to develop that we can be much more efficient. That we, after the first goal, we score a second one. So the game is exactly where we want it to be. So we don't have to chase that much in the game, but we can be a little bit more on top. That I will definitely like us to be in the future.
I mean, as you say, what you're talking about there, it's those fine margins within games. It's younger players learning and developing, and because they've gone through those experiences, they'll react maybe differently in a more positive way. We obviously know about the injuries as well. All of those are mitigating factors, but I'm interested, zooming out, allowing for all of that. Even though you've said since you walked through the door, this is a process, it's going to take time. But would you have hoped you're a little bit further along in the journey, or is it like you say, it's all those mitigating factors you have to take into account?
I actually believe that we are quite far with this group. We've learned a lot with this group, but I'm 100% sure, but it will always be difficult to say, but I am sure that if we have had the consistent group of players together, we would have been even more competitive. And actually that would have been probably a little bit earlier than I expected. But I think there's been many good things in this season for us, even though it's not been perfect, even though there's been also games where we've not been good and we have not been good enough. And I'll be the first to raise the hand and say that I would like us to be much more consistent. But I also just have to look at the group and say there's so many young players where we put them into a game away from home in Sheffield United or Leeds United, and they just have to play that one. And we just expect that they can play it in our way and still be able to dominate a game. It's really, really difficult. But that's the ambitions that we have. And I hope also people watching this, they share the ambitions that I have. And they share the ambitions on behalf of the team, that they can expect what to see when we play games. They can expect a certain way of playing. They can expect an Norwich team that will go out and see if we can dominate, no matter where we are. And they should never go out and see us being too passive or too defensive in our mindset. They should be used to see that team. But I still need to say that, do you know what the average age was when we played Friday night?
23. Yeah.
Quite a young team. What I come from is older than that.
Yeah. So
everything goes fast, and we just have to accept that that's been a fact for us this season. And you know, I'm not the one who will say that adversity will kill you as a team. I think it will be the complete opposite. I think when we find ourselves in those decisive moments, hopefully end of this season and then definitely next season, we have learned from it and we will be the better one.
Just on a final point, and irrespective of, you know, whether you stay in the top 6 race, whether it sort of goes away a little bit, what you're talking about there is this process. It's important that the season doesn't tail off in terms of the results and performances, because you need to have that mood, certainly with the fan base, that you're going into a summer and the building blocks are in place, and hopefully you can add a few more in the window, and then you're ready to go next season.
Yeah. So I hope that's half of the answer. I hope that most of the fans, they can see where we're going. They can still see that, okay, we didn't win against Oxford, but there were still many good things in it. They can see that we didn't win in Blackburn, but we still went away from home and tried to dominate a team that was in the top 6 at that time. I think they can see that. But on the other half, I think they can also see where we're not good enough, and that's fine. And I think that criticism should always be towards me and not too much of the players, because I don't think it's fair to tell a 19-year-old that he should be able to compete for a team that should promote now. But I think we can in the future. But all those, if there's anything about team selections or decisions in game and stuff like that's me and the coaching staff, where we have to probably in moments of the game feel the group of players a little bit better in some ways and see, okay, are we sometimes putting too many demands on some young players? Do we sometimes need to take it a step back and say, okay, we are where we are, let's accept that, and then just do the best that we can do. I think that's fair, but because we need results, we need to show everyone what we can do and how good we can be and how good results we can get when we are at our best. Of course we need that, and we need a win tomorrow evening, and that's as simple as that.
Thanks as always, Johannes. Cheers.
Of course.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.